Welcome back. Oh, we're not ready yet. Sorry. I saw the time click over and I didn't see we have 34 seconds. Should I wait? I'll wait. Okay, he's ready. Okay, welcome back to the Modesto City Schools board meeting, the 1454th regular board meeting. Prior to us coming back to order, I'd like to refer anybody who needs translator services to Ms. Paula Valbuena in the back. And she will, they're just getting the microphone working. All right.
Good evening. Buenas noches, habla Paula Valbuena. Si necesita servicios de interpretación al español, por favor llame al 1-805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 499-149-952, más la tecla numeral. Este es un número totalmente gratis. Nuevamente, llame al número de teléfono 1-805-324-7680 e ingrese el código de acceso 499-149-952 más la tecla numeral. También puede acceder a estas instrucciones en nuestro sitio web en mcs4kids.com, en la parte inferior de la pantalla, en Quick Links y haciendo clic en Board Agendas para ir a la agenda de esta noche. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valbuena. Welcome again to the Modesto City Schools 1454th regular board meeting held on November 30th, 2020. This meeting is now called to order. Trustee Brown will be on via Teams, so he'll be on our screen behind me, and so he is in attendance with us. So we have all of our board members in attendance tonight. After we came out of closed session, I have a statement to read from our closed session action that we took. The board took action in closed session to reject a claim presented by Phoenix Building Incorporated against Modesto City Schools for $45,205 related to work performed in 2019 at the Shackelford Elementary School. The vote to reject the claim was unanimous. And now we will stand for a moment of silence, and then after that I will read some items, and then we will have our Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Thank you. And now, good evening everyone. This open session meeting of the Board of Trustees is being live streamed at the direction of the board. The live stream is available on the district's website, and the recordings will be available for the viewing the day after the board meeting. Tonight we have returned to holding our meeting in person. Precautions have been taken to allow for social distancing guidelines. And for those of you in here, you can see a lot of clear panels that go really tall. Regarding public comment, Modesto City Schools has provided an opportunity for the public to provide comment. It is outlined on the agenda. The public has been given an opportunity to comment via email, call in and leave a voicemail, or come in person. For members of the public that are interested in commenting in the future, we welcome your comments. And we are pleased to welcome a student from El Vista Elementary to lead us in the flag salute tonight via video. And I'm going to read this student a little bit about Deluni Aldridge. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. Sixth grader. Deluni is an outstanding scholar who works hard in class every day. She is a leader who inspires her peers. She enjoys creative story writing, singing, and hopes to one day take dance lessons. When she has free time, she loves spending it with her cousins. After graduating college, Deluni hopes to become a veterinarian or a professional singer. So now the staff can start the video. Thank you for leading us in the pledge.
Good afternoon, my name is Delany Aldridge, and I'm from El Vista, and I'm in the 6th grade. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Raise your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and have a great night.
Liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for leading us in the pledge, and I'm glad all the technology worked for that. Thank you, the tech guys. We appreciate it. Superintendent Noguchi has her welcome and announcement.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank everyone for coming out this evening and those that are joining us virtually from home. I trust that each of you had a nice Thanksgiving with your family and friends. It's a very important time for not only California but our county. So it's very important to, again, stay in small groups and wear masks wherever you can. Get outside and socialize outside certainly is the best. I do want to welcome two board members tonight. We'll be introduced by President Marks in just a bit, but I spent most of the day with them today as we began our training with CSBA, and tomorrow I have the President Workshop, which will continue to really just do training together. I do believe that we are going into this new board with a really strong foundation. We work really great as a governance team, so I look forward to continuing that work as we work to build a new team for Modesto City Schools. So with that, I do think tonight's presentations are going to be uplifting. We have kids in schools. We have two presentations, one, the learning hubs, and then secondly, opening schools. Today was the 3rd through 6th that came together, so we now have our preschool through 6th grade for those parents that are comfortable with their students on campus. So I'm happy to celebrate that today. With that, I turn it over to President Marks.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. You know, I've had the privilege of touring some schools, and today I was able to go to El Vista School with Dr. Odell, and I was so impressed and amazed with what was going on at that school. First of all, I want to say kudos to the teachers. Those teachers were working hard. There were a couple technical glitches in our students who just came back into the classrooms today, but most of them were running smoothly. The kids were engaged. As I walked around and talked with the students, I asked them, you know, how do you guys feel about being back at school? And the kids were so excited. And, you know, to see the joy of the students back in the classroom and the joy of the teachers to be doing what they're trained to do and what they love to do. It was so encouraging to me. One of the things that was really impressive to me was the amount of safeguards for our students' safety and their health and the teachers' safety and health. Plexiglass everywhere. We went into some TK, pre-K kindergarten classes, and even those students, 4 years old, 5 years old, had their masks on. There were so many safety designs in place from arrows and practices. The cafeteria was amazing to me how they took all the tables and benches out and set up desks and chairs with plexiglass for the children to eat so that they were safe. And I would just love to see more kids back at school because it benefits the kids, it benefits the teachers, and I think it just was a joyful experience today. So thank you for going with me. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Trustee Lopez?
I just quickly want to echo what Dr. West mentioned. I also happened to be at Fairview and Bret Harte last week. So at that point, only our TK through 2nd graders were there, but amazing work from everyone from the front desk all the way to our custodians. The students all had their mask on. Mm-hmm. Everything was safe and spread out. So I just want to commend everyone's work on that. It was a really interesting experience to be a part of.
Any other reports? So I'll just do a brief one. If you haven't had a chance to go see them, I'd love to have you be able to see what's actually happening in the classroom. So I know we can set that up, the superintendent's office. I was able to also visit a couple of classrooms, but that was about 3 weeks ago. Loved it. So it was awesome to see the students, even though I got to see a hub where the students were in classroom, but also online and watching those little guys. It was really fun. I talked about that last time. Also attended the Equity and Social Justice Task Force, and it was great. I enjoyed all of the conversation that's coming together around the definition or the vision statement that's coming together, and that's what we worked on this week. So I look forward to combining all the groups into one statement, and then that'll be, I believe, brought to the board at some point so we can all see it together. So I appreciated that. And then I also had a meeting with the Northern California division with CSBA and the school board members in about 8 counties. And so it's really been interesting. They're struggling with many of the same things we are. Some things we're ahead of than they are. A couple of them have come back to school about a month ago, and they've been in class for a month, and they've been doing really well. So that's been exciting to see. Some of them have had blips. This was just last Wednesday, but they had blips in their counties just as we did. One of the counties is Tuolumne, so it's a very small population, but just a few people can change that county dramatically. So they already had their high schools open, and they believe they'll be able to stay open. So we'll see what happens. But a lot of busing and a lot of challenges that they have living in that remote area. So challenges with technology. We've been working on that all summer. But for the most part, almost all of them have technology issues resolved, other than a small, tiny school near Fresno. There's a huge area that doesn't have any technology or any satellites or any way to, not satellites, but the web hubs to be able to connect to, so no one can get connection in there. So they're having to still drive all of their packets of school information to them, and so they're just struggling a lot. So we're hoping that they'll get that figured out. But I'm grateful for our staff for working out all the technology so our students can get on, though I know there's a few that have had struggles, but now they're coming back to the classroom, those that can. So I appreciate that. Thank you for all the great reports and hearing what's happening and how the visiting the schools recently. I look forward to seeing them in the classroom now, more than just the hubs. So now we'll go to our recognitions. So we will turn this over to Ms. Noonan.
Great. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Is the microphone okay? Okay. Great. So thank you, IT team, for putting the PowerPoint up. All right. So thank you for having me tonight, Board President and Board Trustees, Cabinet, and members of the public who are here. First up, we're going to celebrate a student with outstanding character through our Character Education Recognition Program. Tonight, we are celebrating Enochs High School 12th grader Layla Garcia for the character trait of initiative. Activities Director and Leadership Teacher Sarah Mariano nominated Layla and shared, "Layla shows initiative to take on any task and is always helpful and hardworking." That's Layla and I believe her mom. She is president of the Interact Club and recently initiated a letter writing project during distance learning where she led students who wrote thank you letters to first responders. Layla takes initiative to submit meeting agendas without being asked and designs icebreaker activities for the Interact Club. Her commitment to ensuring I have the support I need to be successful is admirable. She is extremely deserving of this award. So congratulations, Layla. All right. Next up, we have our MCS hero. Tonight we are recognizing instructional paraprofessional Laura Ruiz, and Laura is with Garrison Elementary. Nominated by Principal Nancy Matthews, who shared, "Laura goes above and beyond for staff, students, and our community. During distance learning, she showed initiative to learn how to use Schoology and worked extra hours as a fill-in yard duty. She attended online professional development training to provide English language development to our English learners online. Her unwavering dedication to providing for students and families with home visits, phone calls, delivery of materials, and small group instruction is commendable." So congratulations, Laura. Okay. you all know that I get very excited, and tonight we have a special surprise, and it's not on the agenda. Oh, so even better. It's even more of a surprise. Again, it's a very special surprise. So this individual is most certainly very well deserving of being called an MCS hero. She has no clue this is coming. And I feel like this is The Price is Right because Antoinette Chambers! Down. Antoinette, come on up to the podium. Come on. Here she comes. Antoinette is the executive secretary for the board. I wish we could see her face. And she has been nominated for this special surprise recognition by Superintendent Dr. Noguchi, all of the cabinet members, and her coworker, Monica Sanchez Lopez. Antoinette is instrumental in ensuring these board meetings run smoothly. She is the master coordinator of various logistics, including organizing the board agendas, posting the materials online prior to each meeting, and setting up the dais the way you see it now. She is also the primary liaison with the board members to relay communications their way, coordinate their training, attendance at community events and workshops when we can go in person, but also virtually, and ensure all of their needs are met. And I have to thank Monica Sanchez Lopez for doing an excellent job with pilfering some photos from your desk.
She's in trouble.
Yes, so that I didn't have to ask you for anything. Antoinette, you are truly a joy to work with, and we appreciate you and value all that you do every day. Thank you, and congratulations on being recognized as an MCS hero.
Well, this is definitely a surprise. Thank you so much for honoring me with this. And I can't do it by myself. It takes a lot of support from everyone, and especially Monica, my right-hand man in the office. And she's sneaky. I had no idea. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
That's so great.
And next up, we have the special recognition, and I'll turn it over to President Marks.
Yes. So, as you all know, this is our last board meeting before we have our new board members coming in. So it's Ms. Newman, or Trustee Newman's last board meeting with us, which we are going to miss her. So I'm going to say just a little bit, and then I'll turn it over and allow some other board members to as well. But I just wanted to say that it has been an honor to work with you for these last 9 years, which is a very long time. And I have appreciated your knowledge in legal areas to help us in closed session and throughout different contracts that we've needed to review and rewrite or work on together. And you have done an excellent job with all of the issues facing this year or these different years. So one year I am particularly mindful of is the year that you were president. That was an amazing year. You came in December. We had the superintendent resign in December. We had to put in an interim superintendent. Then we had to go through hiring a superintendent search firm. Then we had to select a superintendent. Then we had a board member resign. And then we had to do an appointment for a board member, which was Mr. Irvin. But that was in 1 year. That was quite a lot of things happened in a few months in that year, and you handled it superbly. You also helped rewrite the protocols for the board members, and we worked on that together with Nancy Klein. That was amazing, and then brought in our new board members as they came on to review that and see what they thought of it. I just appreciate your thoughtfulness in discussing controversial issues, your financial background too, in being willing to state some things that are tough to state sometimes, and being bold and courageous in all things on this board. It's been a joy to work with you, and I know as you move on to the next season in your life, I know you'll find lots of other fun things to do as well. So I appreciate your time on this board with me. We don't have our other board member that was here. He resigned early, but I appreciate the fact that you hung out and stuck in there till the end. So thank you so much for doing that. And so I just want to thank you, and I want to present you with a plaque. And then we'll go take a picture, but I'm not sure if we're doing that right now. But here's the plaque.
Oh, thank
And then we're gonna walk over. I'm not sure how we do this.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Okay, here we go.
Maybe stand on either side of the band.
Okay, here we go.
And that'll be our
Here we
6
go.
foot
There we
measurement.
go. How's that?
And tilt the board this way, yes. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm small.
Congratulations. Okay, are there any other board members who wish to comment? Yes, okay.
I just want to start by commending you for your 9 years. I happen to share the last 2.5 with you. Like it was mentioned before, I think you did a great job coming in and as a president, and then having to maneuver a lot of new challenges for ourselves, and then still having the time to take on Charlene and I, to mentor us and to teach us the ropes of being a new board member, right? So I really appreciate that. I thank you for the tips that you've given me being side by side for the last 3 years. So and I just want to thank you, and I wish you the best in whatever comes next.
Trustee
And I echo what Trustee Lopez said. I appreciate the mentorship that you've given us the last 3 years, and you've been a role model to look up to. And so I think besides everything else that was mentioned, I appreciate your collaboration and your work as a team. You never put your own interests above that of the whole, and I really appreciate working together with you on that. Wish you the best.
Mr. We'll have Mr. Urban and then.
Okay,
Mr.
me.
Brown.
Okay, over there.
Is your microphone
yes.
on? Is your mic on?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Trustee Newman, I have been on the board now, a little over 2 years. Oh, actually, no, just 2 years.
Yes.
And being appointed, and actually have history with you when I was an employee of Modesto City Schools. And since I've been a board member, I have really appreciated the knowledge, your passion for education, for law, your insight and how you share things, and you make, I think, all of us board members, when we have legal issues, go, because necessarily we probably wouldn't have thought of that, at that point of view. So I really appreciate the knowledge you have shared, the mentorship, the encouragement, especially with running, again, and being there for that. And like I said, you're going to be truly missed as a board member here, but I know you're going to still be active in the community, and more devoted to the boys in college, as one there and the other one transitioning, so time there. So again, really, really appreciate you, and hope and pray for the best for you in the future.
Trustee Brown?
Yes, Trustee Newman, it's a tough evening to be at home, not in the boardroom, to wish you well. Just for the public, I traveled outside of the state, so I'm doing the responsible thing by not attending the meeting in public tonight. Trustee Newman, I appreciate having worked with you on the board. We've not always agreed on issues, but we've always been able to walk away understanding and respecting each other's opinions, and that's important. I know that you've had the students and the staff members in the forefront of your thinking as we move through some difficult times, difficult issues, and I certainly appreciate your leadership on the board, your focus, and helping us maintain safe legal positions in things that we've had to do. And I will miss your perspective, your insight, and your views as they've been shared over these years that we've worked together. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for the time and dedication. And as we look back at the year that you served as president, there was, I think we could safely say that you held a full-time job as president of the board that year. And I appreciate your dedicated service. And thank you very much.
Yes. Superintendent Noguchi?
Yes, Trustee Newman, I can't thank you enough for your support. I can say my first year here, I really leaned on you to learn about the culture and the history and the traditions. And that year, I wasn't the healthiest of us all. And you really were courageous when I gave you that news. In fact, the first time I met with Trustee Newman was around her kitchen table at her house, and I had to tell her I was sick. And so I knew it was a really risky endeavor to hire someone from outside the district, so there was a risk there. And then there was a risk when I came in not being as healthy as I could have been. However, she was, from the very beginning, it was supportive. It's what do we do? Let's build it together. It's all about team, and really the deep focus on building a strong foundation that first year through the teaming and the governance workshops and the board protocols, all of that really was a solid foundation that you worked to support me in. The second year, with the reorganization, massive reorganization of the central office, we did that pretty much unscathed. And we did that because we were all in it together. And again, Amy was in the back telling me about the culture and the history and the things to watch out for and the little landmines. And so really definitely appreciated your counsel on that. You will be missed, as you've all heard. I think you've heard from everyone, your legal expertise on that. That will be a hole that we'll need to look to figure out our way around in council. But I do want to thank you just for building the right foundation for the new board to come on between you and Mr. Walker and your relentless pursuit of teamwork and board policies and protocols. We have the foundation. Now we can only build. So you leave this board in a great position, and thank you for your 9 years. And I now, as of today, have your personal email address, so we will still be in contact. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Did you have anything you want?
Well, let's see. I wanted to say a few words. Well, first of all, thank you all, the kind words. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you. It's and it's this job has taught me how to work as a team, because lawyers really not good teammates. I mean, we were the last ones picked, because it would be, we're not the. I never met so many people I didn't like till I went to law school. So so it's just, I really appreciate what you taught me in how to work with others and the great results we can get. I want to thank my family for putting up with me, missing a lot of Monday night dinners and supporting me in this position for 9 years. When I started on the board, my sons were in elementary school, and now I have one at Berkeley and one applying to college. And so it's time for me to go, because I've been a parent on this board throughout the whole time that I've been a member. And so I couldn't have done it without my family and their support. And I want to thank Superintendent Noguchi for her leadership these past few years. She works tirelessly for our students and our community. And hiring Dr. Noguchi, the board alluded to it, that was a rough year. But it was the highlight of my time on the board. I was in that position at the right time to do the right thing. And it's the best decision I made, hiring you. So thank you. I also want to thank the rest of the board members for coming together as a team and to lead the district and for being brave. May you continue to ask questions, work hard, and make decisions that are in the best interest of our amazing students, because that's why we're here. And I want to thank you, the employees of the district who work with dedication and passion for all the students. I don't think I understood that till I sat in this chair. I understood the extent of it, and it's a privilege to be a part of this amazing team of people. Now, because I'm a lawyer, I'd be remiss if I didn't give my fellow board members at least one bit of advice. So, and that is read, know, and follow the protocols. Each rule exists for a reason, and following the protocols will always make you look like you know what you're doing. So read the protocols and take care through this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. We appreciated your time. Thank you for all your kind words to us as well. And now I wanted to let you know that Trustee Irvin has been elected to replace Trustee Newman for Area 2, so he will be sworn in tomorrow night. And then I also want to take this opportunity to introduce our two newly elected board members who will be joining us on December 14th at our very next board meeting. So we have Omero Mejia, who is in Area 6, and he's joining us tonight, so you can stand. There's Omero, wave your hand. All right, there's Omero, welcome. We look forward to having you. And then we also have Mr. Abel Maestris. I'm not sure, I'm gonna have to learn how to say your name better, Abel. Hello, he's on the screen, so hi. It's good to see you, and we're glad you could join us virtually tonight. So great to have you, and we'll see you next time sitting up at the dais with us all. So that will be great. And now we will move on to item, and I just want to say it was great to meet Mr. Mejia and Mr. Maestris, and at a new members board meeting. We met in a very large room in the near the superintendent's office so that we could meet each other and then go over some of the items about a board meeting and how we work together, and just it was a workshop put on by CSBA, I believe. So that was very helpful, and Dr. West was also there. So it was really wonderful to get to meet you ahead of time and get a chance to get to know you just a little bit. So we look forward to the future with you. And now we'll move on to item A8, the approval of the consent agenda. And first, before I move to a motion, Ms. Chambers, are there any members of the public who wish to speak on an item on the consent agenda? There are not. Okay, thank you. Ms. Noonan, were there any public comments sent via email or voicemail?
No, not on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. Now I am ready to entertain a motion for the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Trustee Lopez, motions, Trustee Irvin seconds. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. And then aye. And I see Trustee Brown has voted as well, so it passes 6-0. Then and now we will move on to the approval, A9, the approval of the order of discussion action items. I would like to know, do I hear a motion for the discussion?
President Marks, I need to make
we have Dr.
make a
Noguchi.
change. So on B6, I need to make the change to discussion item as opposed to a approval item.
Ah, yes, thank you. I knew that.
So it will be discussion of Modesto City Schools and California School Employees Association collective bargaining agreement for 2020 through 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Just make that change. Thank you.
Yes. So with that one change, is there a motion to approve the discussion action items? There's a motion by Trustee Newman, seconded by Trustee West. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
It passes 6-0. Moving on to A10, the period for public comment. Ms. Chambers, are there any comments from the public? Is there anyone? There's no one back there from the public. Ms. Noonan, were there any comments from the public via email or voicemail?
Yes, I have one for the period of public presentation. I will go ahead and read it. This comment comes from Elizabeth Jesberg. She is a teacher and parent of MCS students. Her comment is regarding the school reopening for grades 9 through 12, which we discussed at the November 9th meeting. I am a teacher of grades 10 through 12 and a parent of 2 kids, 8th grade and 12th grade. I strongly feel that the MCS board should re-examine its decision to have grades 9 through 12 return to in-person hybrid learning 2 weeks after the junior high grades 7 through 8 return. I feel that high school students should be allowed to return as soon as the state allows, which is 2 weeks in the red tier. With the current MCS plan, grades 9 through 12 would need to wait until our county is 4 weeks in the red tier. If the district is trying to start back slowly, then I recommend bringing back only seniors, then the other grades can follow. Manteca School District allowed grades 11 and 12 to come back at the beginning of November at the same time as TK through third grade. Then they brought back all of the other grade levels 2 weeks later. As a high school teacher, I can tell you that many students have given up because they need the in-person interaction that a computer screen can't give. I am worried about graduation rates plummeting, which is why I think seniors should be given top priority to get back on campus, along with juniors, since they don't have a lot of time to make up their credits and get back on track. Disease transmission isn't much different between a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old, but the maturity levels are much higher for following the safety rules on campus. Thank you, Elizabeth Jesberg from Downey High School. And that's the only comment that we received for the period of public comment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Noonan. And now we will go to our item, discussion action items. And do we have anything to report from our student rep, Carson?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a safe and happy Thanksgiving. In the last few weeks, the high school leadership programs have begun several fundraisers to make up for some of their lack in revenue. Bayer is in the middle of their Poinsettia fundraiser and is planning a Jingle Bells Rocks fundraiser. Gregory students are selling Jamba Juice cards, and Davis is selling cookie dough to support their leadership program. Davis is helping our community by organizing a blanket and canned food drive in the next couple weeks before the holiday season. Johansson, Enox, and Modesto High led Thankful Weeks on social media in the days leading up to Thanksgiving to showcase how thankful their students are. Lastly, Downey is in the process of creating a scavenger hunt with their student body before finals week. Our inter-high council meeting last week was the last one before we start our district book drive. Next Monday, December 7th, will be the first day, and it will run through December 11th. And each high school will be a drop-off site for lightly used or new children's books. We're fortunate to have Pacific Southwest Container donate our boxes for the book collection process, and each high school will have 3 of them. The purpose is to provide disadvantaged families within our community with reading material to support the academic development of elementary school-aged children. This week, the high schools are publicizing the project in their student bodies and preparing instructions for book drop-off sites. The books will remain on campus for at least 72 hours before delivering them to the organization Reach Out and Read in order to comply with COVID safety procedures. The Inter-High Council and I are very excited to move forward with the project and are looking forward to a great turnout. This is all I have for today, and I'm looking forward to attending the CSBA conference this week as well. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Mr. Brown, do you have any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Just wanted to check since you're behind me. So, thank you so much, Carson. That was a great update on what's happening. And now we're going to move on to item B2, the report on highlights from preschool through second grade reopening and welcoming students to in-person learning.
Yes.
Ms. Noonan?
I am presenting on that, and if the tech team could get the PowerPoint up, that would be great. So I'm very excited to present on this item. I think it's been very hard, as Ms. Jesberg's comment mentioned, it's very hard on the students not being on campus, and it's also hard on our staff too. Like, we understand, because that's what we're all here to do. So it's my pleasure tonight to highlight several photos from the first couple of days of school with our smallest learners, our TK and preschool through second grades. And then actually today, here we go. Today we welcomed back our first group, as you mentioned, of third through sixth graders. Oh, it's stalling a little bit. I just mentioned that. So this aligns with several of the district goals. Again, it's really our primary purpose of why we're here. So one thing that we've mentioned in previous presentations is we did give parents the choice, and we still have that choice. If parents are not comfortable sending their child back, they can keep them in 100% distance learning. And that's a decision a parent can make. For example, 1 week they can have their child come back. As you can see, we have 2 groups. One group who comes to school on Thursdays and Fridays, and we have the other group who comes to school on Mondays and Tuesdays. If a parent decides, this Monday and Tuesday I want to keep my child home and then send them back next week, they can do that and their child can attend via distance learning for that week. So these are the dates I mentioned earlier. November 12th and November 16th were the first 2 days that we welcomed back the cohorts. Just to give you some ideas of percentages, the total students who were available to return was almost 3,600 students. And as you can see, total students on campus was a little over 1,500. So we're at about a 43.7% attendance rate on campus. That's on campus attendance. So now I just wanted to scroll through, and I do want to acknowledge all of the sites, their staff. The principals are really leading the charge with everything that needs to happen right now. They are doing a phenomenal job, but it's not a one-person job. This is the entire campus who are uniting and doing what they can to bring students back. Staff have been really great at setting up the health and safety protocols, as Dr. West mentioned. Mr. Zierle's team did a wonderful job setting up the plexiglass screens. Staff are adhering to the health and safety protocols with masks. So I'll just go through some of the schools. We received photos from every single school, so there's 22 slides that I'll be going through. This gives you an example of what the students are experiencing. So they do have these plexiglass screens similar to what we have. They still use their devices, but it's a combination of both devices and the teacher doing the live instruction, obviously, in the classroom as well. They are just so excited to be back. I mean, as you can see, they're following the protocols. I think the teachers and the staff are really getting into it as well. But I think it's just really clear the excitement that's there. And one thing that Mr. Godot, he actually made the suggestion of, hey, what about yoga mats? And I think I think Brad needs to go into a branded line of yoga mats. But the principals, if they wanted to use that option, they exercised it, and we ordered yoga mats for any student or any site that needed them for their students. This way the students can then go outside to eat. And so you'll see that in several of the slides. They can go outside to eat and they're not sitting on a cold ground or a wet ground. They're able to use these yoga mats, and they're specific to each student. So they are not shared between students. This is some photos from Everett. As you can see, during the lunchtime, they're outside. They are definitely spaced apart. And the sites just did a tremendous job putting it together. Again, just gives you a good example. I'll start going through since it's... Now, Franklin was super cool. They, if memory serves me correctly, yes, they turned their entire campus into the Candyland board game. And kids loved it. They absolutely loved it. They had some of the highest in-person attendance too. So again, you can just see the smiling faces. Even if you see masks, you can see the smiles through the masks is what I've been telling people. But obviously this looks very different than what a traditional classroom would look like. But the point is that kids are able to come back if they want to. And for some kids, the distance learning is still working for them, and the parents really prefer the distance learning. But we did want to make this available. As you know, I don't know what, there we go. As you know, Mr. Hurst will be presenting on the learning hubs in just a little bit. So we did have learning hubs at the elementary schools as well, but this way we were able to open it up to many more students who wanted to come. So here's Robertson Road. Rose Avenue, there again, you can see all the excitement. Shackelford, just the kids, I think they really feel like they had the red carpet rolled out. This was Sonoma Elementary, and they had a band, not a band, but a string player, and then they also had a guitarist who was out there on his electric guitar, because the principal said that all of their students are rock stars, so they wanted them to feel like rock stars.
That's cool.
Tuolumne, this gives you a good example, and see how the kids are spaced out, and definitely adhering to the physical distancing. That's a great shot of how you can see the plexiglass. So they still get that interactivity, but yet they're still protected and observing the health and safety protocols. So the next steps at this point, as I mentioned, today was the first day that we welcomed back grades 3 through 6. Group B for grades 3 through 6 returns this Thursday, December 3rd. And again, as I mentioned, Group A attends on Monday and Tuesday, Group B attends on Thursday and Friday, and all students distance learn on Wednesdays. Another thing I wanted to point out that the sites did, this was really a Herculean task because we have a lot of families that have siblings in the district. So they focused on if a family has, for example, a first grader and a fifth grader, they wanted to make sure they were in the same group so that it didn't present an issue for the parents. So that they really focused a lot of effort. But as you can see, the total students available in grades 3 through 6 to return was a little over 5,700. And at this point, we don't have the statistics on how many have come, but I should know that if you want to follow up by the December 14th meeting, I can tell you that. And again, for all students, all adults, except for those with, for example, medical exemptions or special needs, masks and face coverings are required. So that is my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Are there any board members with any questions? So,
Mine's a comment.
okay,
So if you want to go.
okay, so go ahead, Trustee Newman.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Noonan, for that report and the pictures. That was fun. Thank you. And I just want to go back to the 43% because when we surveyed our parents, that number was significantly higher that they anticipated coming, and I knew there'd probably be a little difference there. That's significantly lower. So do we expect that number to fluctuate? Do we, and what, is there a way for us to grow that? Should we be looking at growing that number, or is it just, that's parent choice and that's just where it's going to be? I mean, how do we interpret that number? Where are we at?
I can try to answer that. We don't know.
Yeah.
We're in COVID. We don't know what the public perception will be with vaccination, when the vaccinations will come. At the end of the day, when parents feel comfortable for sending their children to school is when we're going to be able to increase that. I do think that part of the attendance from just prior to Thanksgiving, I'm hoping that we're going to have more of our younger ones coming back to school now that the holiday is over. It could be that they wait till after the winter break is over before they come back. The challenging part is that, our county health, our positivity rate is increasing. And so we don't know, but we do know that, and Mr. Herbst certainly could bring voice to this, is that the contact tracing that we have within our schools, the elementary schools, it does not show that the folks that are contracting COVID, it's coming as a result of being in our schools. It's coming from outside. It's coming from holiday parties, and actually it was Halloween, which was the last one from this last couple weeks. It was really triggered from parties around the holidays. So I think it's a wait and see. Just stay vigilant with our health and safety protocols and do the best that we can relative to mitigating all the factors.
Yeah, and I do think, to complement what Dr. Noguchi said, I do think some parents are taking that kind of wait and see approach. And I don't blame them. I mean, this is their children, so they want to ensure that everything is stable and going in the right direction. So we can keep you posted because we are monitoring this especially through the data dashboard. But we can keep you posted on the, via board communications on the on-campus student attendance numbers.
And the one thing I would like to follow, well, I'm not going to be on it, so I think that probably be worth looking at would be the hub kids, because we had a lower amount of students that came back as a way to accommodate the hub kids. They were there 5 days a week, and now they're there 2 days a week. And so I've spoken with parents that had hub kids, and they're a little concerned about this time right now. And then I've spoken with parents that have their kids 2 days a week, and they're like, woo! So, it's we can't please everybody. So it just, if the lower attendance numbers allow us an opportunity to provide continued same service for our hub students, that'd be great.
And Mr. Herbst is going to speak to that along with Steve Hurst. And we are accommodating a little bit more as opposed to 2 days. So he'll talk about that in just a bit.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? And then we'll come back for comments in just a minute. Okay, no questions. So are there any comments from the public?
Not on this item. Oh, I'm
Right,
sorry. Were you
neither
asking
one.
me first?
All right,
or-
that's okay. No,
Okay.
it's okay. So no comments from the public via email or voicemail or that are in person. Okay, so now back to the board for any comments. Trustee West.
I want to kind of key on to what Trustee Newman was saying about the enrollment rates. When I walked on the campus today, I felt safer than I would be anywhere out in the public, going grocery shopping, at Costco, at Target, walking down the street. There were so many safety measures. I think if kids are going to be exposed, it's not going to happen at school. It's going to be outside of school, is my hunch. I also want to say that I think as time goes on, I do think people are going to wait probably a little bit to see how things go. But I think the more kids talk about being excited about being back to their friends, and parents talk about the comfort level that they feel, and teachers become more comfortable, I think we're going to see that those attendance rates go up. I also want to say I really, really appreciate the organization that went behind the way we have rolled this out, because I know we had talked about allowing kids to come back to school, and then anyone who didn't want to would go into the virtual academy, which meant changing teachers, changing class makeups. And I know the way we did it was a lot of extra work. But what that's done is that's allowed students to be a part of it, whether they're at home or in class, to be a part of this class. I saw today that kids at home, a lot of them could see their classmates. Kids in class sometimes could see their classmates at home. And I think that binds them together. And as it was pointed out today, if a student doesn't feel well one day or has a headache and can't come to school, that student can log on from home, even if they're not with their cohort, and still get the same level of instruction. So the teachers, again, and all of our staff that have organized this gigantic task, I think the students benefit from that. So I'm really, really pleased with the way that transpired.
Thank you. Trustee Brown, do you have any comments or did you have any questions? I forgot to ask if you had questions. I apologize. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
Comment that I do personally see a huge difference between the remote learning and the actual physical presence. Big difference between being in the boardroom last meeting and being virtual tonight. So grateful that we're able to work through challenges and bring as many of the students back as possible. And I am grateful for the fact that we have listened to the parents and provided opportunities based on their personal comfort level. So, you know, we've tried as well as possible to meet the needs of every student where they are. And so I issue gratitude for those efforts and the fact that we're trying to reach every student and meet every family's needs.
Yes, I too appreciate that. And I liked his analogy because it was a lot different at home. You cannot see the whole room. You can only see a portion of it. And so paying attention, you know, and I know for students paying attention to a screen is really difficult. And so that does take, for all of us who've been home trying to do Zoom calls, it's difficult. But I appreciate the fact that we've given options for our students, for the families to be able to come in person now, for our little guys, and then now as we go up to junior high and high school. So I look forward to that. Thank you for this report.
You're
It
very
doesn't
welcome.
take any action. And so now we're going to move on to item B3, report on learning hubs TK through 12. And Mr. Herbst is going to be on for this presentation.
Thank you so much. I'm going to make sure that Director Steve Hurst comes. If not, Mr. Herbst will do this entire presentation.
All right.
Saved. Good evening, Board President Marks, trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, fellow cabinet members. My name is Mark Herbst, Associate Superintendent of Student Support Services. And while they get set up, Director of Student Support Services Steve Hurst is going to present on Modesto City Schools' use of hubs and how that really went to serve and currently serves some of the most vulnerable students in Modesto City Schools. I would be completely remiss if I do not acknowledge the work that has went on behind the scenes in this. I know last board meeting, the board took the time to acknowledge that, and I appreciate that, but I would like to give some personal acknowledgement to Steve Hurst and his team. Dr. Christy Allen, Chris Romero on the special education front, who got the hubs running for our parallel program. It truly was, in my opinion, a Herculean effort involving not only their leadership, but really some cross-departmental collaboration, business services, educational services, curriculum instruction, PD, and HR. So it really is a culmination of those things coming together. With that, I will let Mr. Hurst take it away. So Steve, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, President Marks, trustees, Superintendent Noguchi, and cabinet members. Again, I appreciate I'm here today to provide a report on the Modesto City Schools Learning Hubs that we've instituted and also review some of the next steps that we have still planned. I will note that throughout the presentation today, you will see different pictures. A lot of these are from early on in the hubs, but they are actually students that have been attending or are still attending potentially the hubs. And you'll notice some of the differences in these pictures, maybe even compared to what you see now with the plexiglass and some of those things. And that's because obviously as we've progressed through this and looked at different ways to increase the safety for our students, we now see a lot more plexi going on. But initially we did not have the plexi, but at the same time we had the opportunity to do this. Looking at our district goal alignment, obviously, we recognize there has been a learning loss that has occurred and we needed to address that. But really, this is about increasing the academic achievement of our students. So it's really a goal 1 is what we're looking at. And when you look at that within it, even 1.2 and 1.4, when we're looking at our multi-tiered systems of support for our students, this definitely ties in directly to that. And as a way for us to help start addressing that learning loss that we know has occurred within our students. Just to remind you a little bit of some of the background, and some of it will be a repeat if you were at the earlier presentation we had about the hubs. But on August 25th, California Department of Public Health did issue new guidance for what they called small group cohorts or groups of children and youth. And then about a week later, they actually gave us an update on it. And really the purpose of this was to provide guidance so that we could have some in-person child supervision and to facilitate what was happening with us with our distance learning and really support our small group environment. The thing that was really encouraging about this, separate from the waiver process that we had going, is this addressed K through 12. It wasn't just at elementary level, so it allowed us to address across the board all the students that we have in the district that we could try to address with it. Within that guidance, it allowed us to create these cohorts of our most vulnerable students who were able then on campus. They came to campus to be supported with their distance learning during regular school hours. Obviously, these had to be stable cohorts. We had to keep the students in the same groups. We had maximum size of 16, with most of it being 2 adults and 14 students. And we had to keep them from mixing. But another big plus of this, and mentioning like with special ed, it allowed us to provide some specialized students services with something like occupational therapy, which is very difficult to do in a home environment. But if you can bring the student, you have them on campus, you pull them out in a very structured environment and following safety protocols, definitely was a big plus to having this guidance from the California Department of Health. So once we had that, we had a very short period of time to try to put this in place. And so just a quick idea of what happened in the implementation. Obviously, a lot of preparation, a lot of coordination, as Mr. Herbst just mentioned, but we had to find the rooms. We had to make sure the rooms were set up. We had to put them all together. So a big shout out not only to the sites for identifying those rooms, we even worked with the city of Modesto for off-site locations because in some cases we had very limited rooms available, remembering that teachers were still teaching, using their rooms to support their students. The head custodians were key to this. this. A big shout out to Aaron Castro and his help in that. He and I walked a number of campuses, in fact, every campus before we were done identifying how they needed to be set up and making sure we had all the appropriate guidelines. We also had to put in our health and safety guidelines, so things like our daily screeners and procedures and our check-in, check-out policies. All those had to be put into place. Having done some of that with the child care that we had done back in March through July, that definitely helped us a lot. Big shout out again to Nutrition Services. They coordinated making sure all of the students had breakfast and lunch available every day for them and delivered to the rooms. Staffing is always the key to this. In addition to rooms coming up with staff, worked closely with MTA and CSEA, really especially with CSEA because we brought back our classified staff to really support this effort. But even that, we still had some issues with staffing, so worked with some of our outside partners like City of Modesto and Police Activities League to make sure we had the coverage that we need. So I really appreciate all the responses that we had there. And obviously, who were the students that we wanted to come? Who were those students? Working with the principals, really identifying those students and prioritizing them, looking at people like our homeless and foster youth or ELs that really needed that support that we could provide to them. So our timeline, as I said, was pretty quick. I do think that the child care experience that we had definitely helped with this. And so if you take from essentially the 1st of November or of September, by 9/11, that Friday, we had completed the identification of our first sites, had them set up. We had gone through a staff training that I conducted with them, and we were ready to go on the week of 9/14. So September 14th, we actually initiated with 3 hubs on the 14th on that day. We started with that week implementing them, and as you can see, we had 4 elementary, 1 junior high, and then we had 2 special education hubs or sites that started. Most of these had at least 1 to 2 different cohorts happening on the campus. So I really appreciate the efforts that the principals and the staff and everybody did to make this happen, because 2 weeks is a very quick timeline if you think about it. Over the next 4 weeks, we did phase in the remainder of all of our junior high and high school and elementary sites. We were averaging about 6 or 7 sites a week, and anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4, depending on the site, what they had available from staffing, rooms, etc. And so definitely was a big plus. We had some sites even decide that they could figure out how to add. So maybe they started with 2, and next thing you know, they were able to address the need. They had those students ready and identified. We were able to put it together. They put a 3rd cohort in on there. By the time we're done, if you think about it, we have 22 elementary, 4 junior high, and counting Elliott, we have 8 high schools. We had at least 1 cohort on every single site within a 5-week period of time started up and going. And we actually had a cohort offsite with the City of Modesto. Giving you an idea of what the number of students that we have affected or have been able to work with. So we had at the elementary 61 total cohorts, 770 students that were able to come to campus. Junior high, we had 10 cohorts. And again, this is more than 2 average if you think about it. Again, 110 students. And at the high schools, we had 23 cohorts and 260 students. So total of 94 cohorts over, 34 sites that we have. So again, you can see that. And over 1,100 students that we definitely have affected the lives in a positive way, in my opinion, based on what we know about these students. Along that way, I have invited Principal Ernesto Calderon from Override Elementary, and he is going to share with you a little bit about what he's seen at the hubs, the impact on students, and specifically the young girl that you see seated here in the picture. He's got definitely a story that shows what this has done for our students and the positive impact. So with that, I'm going to invite Principal Calderon to come forward and talk about it.
Good evening. We've experienced great success with Learning Hubs at Override. We were able to implement and run 3 hubs consistently, servicing a total of 36 scholars in a period of 8 weeks. So that's amazing data that we have collected. Here we have a young lady, and this scholar prior to Learning Hubs was only logging on very sporadically, just whenever a staff member was able to support her in the logging on system. She is homeless and experienced multiple transitions just from the beginning of the school year. She experienced several losses of devices and hotspots along with her transitions from home to home. So we offered her, she was number one on our list to get her on a learning hub. And after attending, she attended regularly and was able to stay on all the time. So she was able to come in, eat breakfast, log on, stay logged on, and wait till the end of the day, and then mom would pick her up. And she just had a great success. Teacher has also said just how amazing it was just to have her there all day. Along with that, we also have another scholar that comes to mind, a first grader. Scholar only attended about 42% of the time, and when I say 42%, it doesn't mean he's on all day long. He's just basically logs on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time, logs off. We have to get the troops, round up the troops to get him back on. And this scholar also receives special education services and has multiple younger siblings at home. So a lot of distractions happening at the home. So while in the Learning Hubs, he attended almost every day and had a 95% login rate after attending the Learning Hubs. What the data doesn't show, though, is that we had several scholars that had difficulty logging on and staying logged on, would log on for a few minutes and maybe not return after a transition. And additionally, some of our scholars receiving special education services were not able to successfully navigate through courses throughout their day. So due to Learning Hubs, they were able to log on and stay on all day, and support staff was available to keep them online. We were able to better support scholars receiving special education services who had difficulty navigating through the Schoology platform. My vice principal, who's here actually, and I had a difficult time just narrowing it down to just a couple stories, because there truly are several stories that we can discuss tonight, but these are just a couple, and I appreciate the fact that we were able to provide Learning Hubs for the scholars at Overwrite. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calderon. I do want to point out that I think, if I recall correctly, the day that we put out a message that we were looking at that, I think within 5 minutes, I had a phone call from Mr. Calderon saying, hey, how do I become the first site that is there? So he definitely recognizes needs and how to support his students, and give him credit for that. And I will say that he continues that and shows that on a daily basis. Well, it's also nice to hear from our administrators about what they see. I think it's even more important sometimes to hear from our students. So I have a video here that was recorded. This is going to be Preston Lee. Preston is a junior at Grigori High, and I think he's done a really good job of talking about his prior experience, his experience with the hubs, and how he's been affected. I will give you a quick hit out there. You'll hear some ringing that happens. There is a phone that goes off during this recording, but that makes it more real, I think, in the sense that this is really what happens in the life of a student, even when he's recording something. So with that, if I could get the gentleman to play the video, that'd be great. There was a video embedded. It was embedded in the PowerPoint. Yeah, should be right there. It's not playing it. Well, hopefully we'll get lucky. If not, then I'll share a little bit about what Preston had to say. It's not showing up there. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is Justin Woodbridge, one of the assistant principals at Gregorian High School. And with me, I have Preston Lee, a junior here at Gregorian. Preston was kind enough to spend a couple minutes with us and answer some questions about the Learning Pod. So, Preston, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I want to ask you just three simple questions, okay? The first one is, how was school for you at Gregory before the closure?
School at Gregory before the closure for me, it was a lot better actually. My grades were better than they've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the basketball team, and got to speak to my friends and
Got to see your friends?
Yeah, got to see my friends.
Got it. How was it compared to like your junior high school experience?
That was junior high. High school was way better than middle school has ever been.
So you really...
My grades were a lot better.
Great. And so during distance learning, what were some of the struggles that you've had?
Some of the struggles, my grades completely dropped. They're a lot lower than they've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a routine. I was doing different things every day.
Mm-hmm.
There was no face-to-face interactions. My friends, I wasn't allowed to see my friends really.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it was harder to ask my teachers
Questions?
Yes,
Because they weren't face-to-face with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So since you are in the pods, the learning pods now, what has been your experience there?
My experience in the learning pods have been actually a lot better than it was at home, way better than it is at home. It gets me into a routine, it gets me out of the house. My attendance and grades, they haven't like skyrocketed or anything, but it's been like, getting better, like I said, better attendance, and then even just doing my assignments a lot better and more.
So would you say learning pods overall have been helpful, have not been helpful? What do you think?
Yes, sir. Been a lot more helpful than distance learning.
Great. Anything else about the learning pods that stand out? About people in your pods or anything like that?
The teachers, the administrators for the learning pod was they answer any of your questions. They help with technical difficulties and things like that.
So it's been nice having somebody in the room face to face that you could ask questions and be able to help out.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Anything else?
Yeah. Also, I get to see my friends. It just gives you a lot more motivation to come.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for being with us, Preston. I appreciate you answering some questions. Good job.
No problem. Thank you.
You'll notice the phone, as I talked about. Obviously, Preston was very, very nervous, and he had put together some notes. So I really appreciate that because all we did was reach out and say, "Hey, is there somebody that you can think of, and would they be able to?" He immediately stepped up because he's had that positive experience that we really wanted to have. So as we look at what's happening, one of the things we did is we did do some surveys. It's early to have a lot of information and data on the learning hubs and their effect, and some of it's going to be corollary type information. But out of the families that were asked to attend based on the recommendations of the administration, we did have 70% of our families that chose to have their students come. Again, this is a voluntary. There was nothing that said they had to come. But and most of the ones that didn't come, it really came down to a transportation or maybe supervision. Maybe they were supervising younger children at home where they just couldn't go. But we had some sites that had 100% of the students contacted that would come in, but overall about 70%. And we have a work to address some of that transportation the best we can. One of the big questions always going to be, how would the students and how would the staff do with the health and safety guidelines? And really this is, if you think about it, this was the trial run of seeing how it was going to look like when we brought students back. So that was the nice part. What we found is it wasn't an issue at all. The students probably might have been better than the adults if you really think about it, and it's not always so surprising, but it definitely didn't have any problems, keeping masks on, following directions, arrows, all these changes that the students coming back now are having to deal with. These students have already shown us that we're definitely capable of that. Just as any school day, we will have students that go home. We had very few go home, but really more for what you would call your typical, I've got a stomach ache at school, what happens type of a thing than anything else. nothing that we could tie back to a hub of any reason why somebody had to go home other than the precautionary that we would want to make sure that we were careful with those students. And parents were very receptive to that and understanding of that as we go through it. But I want to say, when you think of over 1,100 students, probably during their whole time frame, we had maybe 15 that actually even went home at all during this process, which is nothing different than, just a regular school day. If you think about it out there, how many kids that come to school and maybe not be feeling well and go home with a headache or something like that. One interesting piece, especially at the high school level, even more so than the elementary level, was the stamina. Students were not used to a full school day. So when we brought in this, literally 6-hour school day that they would normally be attending, they hadn't been used to that. And so we found them falling asleep, getting very tired, they couldn't do it. So they had to build the stamina, which is something I think we'll probably see a little bit as we go through the return with our students in general. And I know the parents' comments that we got back, they were very appreciative for various different reasons, but overall the reception on this was highly positive, and I think it showed the fact that they were very appreciative. We were trying to find a way to help their students and give them the best opportunity to be successful. This really is an equity issue. We have some students that don't have this problem, but other ones that do, and we needed to do our best to try and address that the best we could. I really think that having done this, we have a much better idea of what's going to happen with in person as we return. So I look at that as one of the big pieces of this, and I think that we're seeing that parents will question things. Our numbers may not be the same as what we thought they might be as we go to in person, but I think that as we keep moving forward, we'll find more and more of them and show as our protocols are in place that we're going to have even greater number return to campus. So health and safety obviously is a big key for this. We did implement the protocols and put them in place, and I really want to say they were followed. And if you think about over a 9-week period of time with over 90 cohorts, where did we have issues? We did have one high school close down the hubs completely, and that had nothing to do with the hubs. It just happened to be an issue that closed the high school. We also, since we've had 2 high schools and 1 junior high that we had an individual cohort that had to be quarantined, and this was really from a precautionary element. It was an outside issue. It was never from the students. We have had, to our knowledge, 1 student that had tested positive, and that was caught very early. The student actually, by the time we knew it positive, had been home for almost 2 weeks at that period of time. So it was really nice that we really, took precautionary measures very quickly to address that. And so I think that's the big key, and I give a big shout out to our health services and the Tracer team for their work in helping us, making sure we did that correctly and handled it in a way that was supportive to the families and those individuals involved, but at the same time addressed the needs and meeting the protocols that we had. So to me, I see it as a real positive for us. When we look at next steps, obviously, we don't know what will happen with junior high and high school, so we are continuing the learning hubs at this point in time. They have not returned to in person, and we have a plan in place that if we aren't able to, we will continue these learning hubs for the remainder of the year, and our goal would be to obviously increase them where we can. We also know that at the elementary level, especially with the return, it's making it a little more difficult. We are using rooms that maybe were available before with a teacher at home or something like that. But we definitely want to recognize that Wednesdays is an opportunity still to support the students, so we are in the process. And actually this week we have our first sites getting ready to implement some Wednesday learning hubs. And we have a few sites that may have some staffing ability to actually support students in their AB cohorts on their off days, and that'll definitely be something we want to continue to look at. I also oversee, obviously, after-school program, and there's some potential that I may be able to support some shorter hub days for those students. So those are things that we are looking at. Obviously, data is early in this. We have some attendance data on these students, but we really don't have, great grade data and anything, especially with us just finishing up trimester 1 or, we're in semester first semester. So hopefully we'll see with that data, but I think the impact, whether it comes down to grades and attendance, really is going to be on the mental health of these students and their families and what they've done. So I look forward to being able to continue to support students even as they return to school. And with that, I'll leave it. If you have any questions, I'd be try to answer. I'll turn them over to Mr. Herbst.
Okay, do we have any questions? Any questions from the board? Trustee Newman?
Thank you, Mr. Herbst and Mr. Hurst. It's hard to enunciate both of those in a mask, but I think I said both your names. So we started with our most vulnerable students, and about 70%, we identified them. About 70% said yes. Are we going to, as we look at the expanding these hubs in our 7 through 12, are we going to be going back out to those parents again? The 30% that didn't say yes?
Yeah, so at the high school and junior high level, they definitely have been trying, they kept that list so that they will reach back out as space becomes available. The challenge is probably at the junior high and high school is not room space, but it's always making sure we have the staffing, because we're not pulling teachers in to teach in these hubs. We're using our support staff, and many of our support staff are supporting students in other ways that they would normally support. So if I'm a para, I'm probably still supporting a student that I might have been supporting, or a classroom that I'm supporting. So pulling them to then work in a hub is not ideal, because we want to make sure that we're supporting students. So we're using staff that was available, or that we could find for subs and stuff. That's where the challenge will be, is just making sure we have the staff to do it so that we can reach back out to the families. Maybe the transportation situation has changed, or the supervision has changed, especially with younger students going back to school. And then from there, we also have an additional waiting list of students that have been identified.
All right, because we have till December 18th at the end of the semester. And so what my concern is the students that might be failing. Is there any way for us to reach out and bring them in to any, that's a short amount of time to get any failing students in. Is there any way to be able to do that?
I would love to say that we could do that across the board. It is something that we are looking at with a couple of the high schools right now, to say, how do we do this, especially for our seniors who are of critical nature to us right now for various reasons. I'm hoping that'll come to fruition. We have one site we may be able to get up and running here by the end of the week. But again, we're having to identify that staffing to support it. We can identify the students. That's not going to be the issue. Yeah. It's really going to be identifying the staffing that can support it and make sure we have that staff available to us.
And the challenge, as he alluded to, the majority of staff are still being used in another capacity. So even then you look potentially at maybe a substitute here and there, but even then the substitutes are being used now that we've opened up K-6 elementary. So again, it's not a barrier per se, but it's a challenge. But to answer your question, yes, I do believe, and I know that the sites are actively pursuing, especially based on the first quarter DNFs, but also as it gets closer to semester time, targeting those kids to hopefully prevent a failing grade.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions from board members? Trustee Brown, do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Is it appropriate yet?
No, not just yet, but I'll come to you in just a minute. First, we'll go out to the public, and then we'll come back for comments. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Carson, he has a question.
I had a question similar to Trustee Newman's. Is there a plan for second semester to prevent more students from entering in the failing category and possibly falling behind on their graduation requirements?
I think we're working on every opportunity that we can look at. The Learning Hubs is one opportunity. We never even had these, if you think back before this year. At the same time, looking at increasing our tutoring and opportunities, whether it's virtual or in person. We are starting up some Saturday academies that are specifically targeted for students that are struggling. Again, very small cohorts, students identified and invited. And I think, anything's on the table as long as we can look at it and figure out how to make it happen. So I can't say I have every answer right now, but I do know that, Mr. Herbst and I have been working on another number of different avenues to look at. And I'm going to see if he has any additional to add to that.
No, I mean, those key areas that you mentioned, I would also say that there's been a lot of good work that came from CNI PD and Ed Services just in terms of approaching teacher leadership in terms of generating ideas on what we can do that maybe looks a little bit different potentially at grading and other areas that hopefully get us to where we're not necessarily having the number of non-passing grades that we had the first go around. So I know that there's a lot of work being done, not only with the work Steve Hurst and I are doing in student support services, but across the board on the other end.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so any other board members have any questions? I don't see any, so we're going out to Ms. Chambers. Are there any comments from the public? No comments from the public. Ms. Noonan, were there any comments from the public via email or voicemail?
No, not on this item.
No, not on this item. Now, back to the board for any comments. Let's do Trustee Brown, and then we'll go to Trustee Newman.
Yes, thank you for this report. And I do want to comment, I appreciate the public outreach and especially this collaboration with Modesto B on this topic prior to the board meeting to help the public become informed about the things that are happening in these hubs and the learning that is happening and the improvement that is provided for some of our students. So appreciate the outreach and the interaction with the B to give a positive article that may help some students who are having difficulties reach out and realize that we have special help available for them. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Newman.
All right. While it's not exactly having to do with the hubs, it is having to do with a topic that's related to it, is our failing students, and our student representative recognizes that. I don't know if you got recruited to do some tutoring online. I know Mason did for some failing students. So we have to deal with students that are failing, and we have to deal with them in several ways. And the hub is one way, but I think that the other way is on this board, and it's too bad I'm not going to be here anymore to do this, but we have to deal with what it means to fail and what is a failing grade in a class, because these students are coming in rolling into finals with a 20% in a class. There should be a floor, and it should be a 50%. And I'm the queen of rigor. I'm always pushing. Let's make it harder. Let's make it more academic. But at this point and where we're at, we cannot expect students that have dug a hole so huge to come out of it. And we need to take action quickly. And I think it's just imperative for us to hit head on helping our failing students. So often students fail not because they don't understand the subject, but because they haven't turned work in. And so just, that's what the hub can come in and sit with them and say, let's go through what you haven't done and let's make sure you get it turned in. So as much as we can do that, but it begins also with the board taking action on setting a floor. And whether that's temporary or not, that's up to you guys. But I think that desperately needs to be done. And these students cannot dig themselves out of a hole where they're sitting at 10 and 20%. They need to do the work. Yes, we need to hold them accountable. But at this point, I think there's extraneous circumstances. And we've got to figure out a way to help these kids to get to the finish line.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a comment, Superintendent?
Yeah, I do know that Curriculum Instruction Professional Learning Department is working with site level teachers and administrators in a committee right now, identifying some strategies. talking about exactly what you're referring to. So that will come back at a later date, but I know that I think that they've met for the second time just this last week as they've worked to look at strategies to be able to help mitigate some of that.
Yes, I too, I had a teacher I had a long discussion with about her students failing. They were doing okay before COVID last year. Then when COVID came and they were isolated at home, they started to fail last year and they're continuing to fail. And it's very frustrating because they're juniors this year. They don't know, and some of them are seniors. They don't know, she doesn't know if they're going to be able to graduate now because their grades are so low because they have a lot of zeros. And the zeros put you down in the really low. How do you get yourself out of that hole instead of maybe starting at 50% and saying this was a failing, grade, but you're not at 0 and trying to work yourself up to 50% and then beyond that. So I agree, it is challenging, and I know the teachers are concerned about their students and how that's going to affect them. So I'm glad Dr. Noguchi has been working on this. I spoke with her a couple weeks ago about the teacher that I spoke to and just the concerns that she had at the school site she's at. So I'm looking forward to seeing some opportunities to help those students. This was a great report. Thank you for sharing this. I was really blessed to be able to go see a hub at one of our elementary schools and just see those students working hard. Some of them were out on the playground, some were in the classroom. It was just great to see them engaged and happy being in the classroom, working inside of that environment. But as you said, I think for some of them, it is a long day when they haven't been in that structured environment, that much of a structured environment. And so it will be challenging to help them get that stamina, as you said. So I'm looking forward to seeing our students and our teachers too. That's it's hard getting that attention, keeping it, holding it for that entire time, getting them back. So thank you for this report and for sharing all about the hubs tonight. And now this was a report only, and then we'll have 2 more items, and then we'll take a break. I think we'll do these next 2 items. Okay, because these shouldn't take too long. So item B4, approval of appointment of board representative to the Salida Area Public Facilities Financing Agency, Board of Directors, Mr. Zerly.
Thank you, President Marks. Good evening, trustees. This agenda item would normally appear on the December board meeting, but due to Trustee Walker's resignation in September of this year, the district seat on the SAPFA board is currently vacant. The next meeting is December 1st, which is tomorrow, for this particular agency, and so we're asking the board to appoint a representative to the Salida Area Public Facilities Financing Agency Board of Directors, and that can attend the meeting on behalf of Modesto City Schools on December 1st.
So the meeting is going to be at 5 o'clock in the Salida School Board Chambers, which is out in Salida. It's anyway, so I wanted to find out first, are there any board members that would like to? I've scheduled that time just because I had someone call me and say, hey, you've done this before. Would you be our backup if no one's willing to serve? So I set it out and said, but I couldn't tell you until tonight. So I wanted to find out if there's anybody that wanted to do that tomorrow night. So is there anybody who'd like to serve tomorrow night? And then in December, we will appoint our regular board members. So, but it's tomorrow night at 5 o'clock in Salida. And it is, they meet twice a year now. I served on it for many years. There's 5 members on their board, and they meet in June and then December, and it's mostly financial items that we go over and discuss. It's not a very long meeting, but it is important that we're there for our vote to count. So it's fun. You're available tomorrow? Okay. Mr. Irvin will serve on the meeting tomorrow. So we'll send the agenda out to you. It's about, 40 pages long, something like that. I rolled through it and had some questions on it. So, okay. So it doesn't, it's up to 30 minutes, but it's usually shorter. So yeah.
You have a swearing in tomorrow.
Yes, you do. That's right. I know. I thought, I'm going to miss the swearing in because I have, if no one else wants. Okay, that's okay. I'm perfectly willing to, if you're okay with that, and I'll go ahead and be there. So I will be there at 5 o'clock tomorrow night. So, but we need are there any comments from the public on this? There's no comments from the public. Any comments from emails? No.
No.
So back to the board. So now is there a motion to appoint a member?
I move to appoint you.
Trustee Newman moves to appoint Trustee Marks. Is there a second?
I was just going to say, I know you have your plate full. I can't make it tomorrow night, but I would be willing to serve on it
Okay.
for the next meeting. I'm happy to do
Okay.
that.
In June. Okay, yes.
Unless you really want it.
No, it's fine.
I'm happy to do
Be
that.
happy to have you do it. No, it's good. It's good experience, I think, just
Okay.
because we should all. Yeah, right, yeah, I know. SIFA, yeah, that's right.
And we're doing
We'll
committees
be
at the
doing that
next board meeting. So December 14th, we have a list of committees for folks to sign up for. So
Yes.
we'll,
All right.
we'll
Yeah, we'll
talk
have
about
it.
that all
May
together
I-
with our two new board members.
Just for
And they
this
can be
week?
part of that party.
Yeah, this week and next week, these two meetings
Just
end
can
up
I
in
get a
December.
point of clarification? I apologize. Is the motion just for the December 1st meeting? So we'll
Yes.
bring this back under the normal committee appointment
Yes.
at the first meeting in December.
Right, so for tonight, the motion is only to appoint a representative for this first meeting in December. Then at our December 14th meeting, we will have two new board members and we'll have a full board, and that's where we'll do our reorganization meeting as we normally do. So just happened that we had the member resign and not able to serve. So,
I'll make the motion then for Trustee Irvin to go to the meeting tomorrow night. That's what we're voting on, correct?
right.
No.
Trustee Newman motioned that I would serve for tomorrow night.
Looking for a second, that's all.
Yeah.
I'll second that then. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. That's awesome. No, it's good. So Trustee Newman made a motion, Trustee West made a second. All those in favor to have Trustee Marks be the representative for tomorrow night, December 1st only. And Carson, how do you vote? Yes. So Carson votes yes. And so, and all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous, 6-0. So now we'll move on to item B5, approval of appointment of two board representatives to the Schools Infrastructure Financing Agency Board of Directors. This is only for the meeting on December, it's next week, 5th, I believe, on a Tuesday night. And this one is for two members. It's December 9th. At 6 o'clock. So this one is at 6 o'clock, December 9th. And so I'm just going to say that. So I'm going to turn over to Mr. Zerly.
It's the same as item B4. This is just the second of our Mello-Roos Joint Powers Authority. We have two board representatives on the CIFA board, again with Mr. Walker's resignation and Ms. Newman's term ending today. The district has 2 seats vacant on the CIFA board. The next meeting is December 9th. So we would be looking for 2 representatives to attend the December 9th meeting.
Yes. So this meeting will be very similar to the other one. There's 7 members on this board. There's 2 from 3 school districts, Modesto, Stanislaus Union, and Sylvan District, and then there's a community member. So there's 2 from each, and then there's a community member. And so are there any board members that would like to serve on that one just for next week? And it's about 30 minutes to an hour. Yeah, it's around that. So it's December 9th at 6 o'clock. Okay, Trustee Irvin would like to serve on that. And then, is there any others? Trustee Lopez. So Trustee Lopez and Trustee Irvin are going to serve on the, so, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
For
So,
Trustee Irvin and Trustee Lopez
Yes.
to serve for the December 9th meeting.
okay, so it is, and you'll receive an agenda that's about 70 pages long. This one's a lot longer. It's with 3 CFDs. The CFDs are, go ahead, Trustee Newman and I have served on this.
Having served on this for 9 years, this is a great board for. I encourage our new board members. This is a way to really understand some of the Mello-Roos taxes and bonding. And some of just the build a relationship with our other feeder districts as well. It's pretty complicated, but we have able staff that walks you through it. They'll be going over the audit. So it's a really, if you go on this, next week, it's a great time to get some exposure of what's happening on it and how to understand it, because the auditor will be there and you can like go over what actually happens. And so it's, for those of you who are going, it'd be a great opportunity to begin to understand the work that's done at that level.
Yeah. So it's where the Mello-Roos money comes into these three entities, and that Mello-Roos money is distributed out to the different school facilities. And as we have built out each area, they are completing those projects. And now I believe that one and SAPFA both have voted to end the commitment for the taxpayers. Instead of reducing their financial commitment over the 20 years, it's going to be reduced now until it's completed.
Well,
until
that's
it's
only one of the CFDs.
Oh, that's the SAPFA
CFA
one.
manages 3 CFDs,
Oh, that's
and
right.
CFD stands for Capital Facility Districts.
That's right.
And they're set up with a joint power agency between the CIFA, the School Infrastructure Financing Agency, and then the various school districts that are part of it. And it's a capital facility district, so it has taxation authority. And so you're on the board, you're looking at the tax rate, the audit report, the use of the funds, and the investment of the funds, and what the districts themselves decide how to spend them, any of the major funds, but you're managing the funds for the district and collecting the funds for the use by the district. And so it kind of gives you a good background in that, and I encourage someone to sign up for it. It was great to have somebody who lived in the CFD.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. That would be our newest board representative there, I think. But I did not live in that district, and I do not ever live in that district, so that was good too. If there was any issue that came up, I could still vote.
Yeah. So it's a great opportunity to serve. So we have a motion by Trustee Newman for Trustee Irvin and Trustee Lopez. Do we have a second? Trustee West has seconded that to serve for tomorrow, the next week on December 9th at 6 o'clock. And the address you will receive, it's at the Sylvan School District office on Sylvan Avenue. So it's the one kind of near. Oh, maybe it's by Zoom. It might be by Zoom. I know the other one they're meeting in person at SAPFA. So, okay, so the staff will contact you and let you know where it will be. And so now, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We have an aye, yes, and I see Trustee Brown. Okay, so now we will take a break. All right, passes 6-0.
When do you want people back?
We'll take a 10-minute break. Sorry, 10 minutes until 7:52.